Hi everyone, I'm Ashpreet and today I'll show you how to build reasoning agents. Reasoning has been a hot topic lately and this video walks through what is reasoning and how we can use it to build better agents. But first, what are reasoning agents? The key defining quality of a reasoning agent is that it thinks before responding. This is popularized by the reasoning models like O3 Mini, DeepSeek R1, where the model will go through an internal chain of thought before generating a response or a tool call. But that's not all what reasoning agents do. Reasoning agents can also analyze the result of a tool call. They can take an action, they can search the web, they can call an API, they can search their knowledge base, and then analyze if the result of that action was valid, if they have all the information that they need from that tool call. And then finally, reasoning agents can also work through multiple ideas. They can explore multiple paths, they can validate different hypotheses, and correct their approach as needed. So these three qualities turn a regular agent into a reasoning agent. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk through the three different approaches that we're taking at Agno and how you can build reasoning agents. All right, so let's get started. So the three different approaches in front of us for building reasoning agents is A, to use a reasoning model, B, to give it a set of tools for reasoning, and C, to use a separate agent that uses chain of thought plus tool use. This is a custom approach by Agno for building specific reasoning agents. Let's talk about them one by one. So the reasoning models like O3 Mini, O1 Pro, Gemini Flash Thinking, Claude with Extended Thinking, these models are trained with reinforcement learning to think before answering. The key with these models, it's all about what happens before the first response is generated. But it gets tricky when multiple sequential tool calls are required to achieve the result, which is pretty much all what agents do. There's like multiple steps of tool calls. So to work around that, Anthropic came up with a great research, and I'd encourage all of you to read this in detail. Like this is one of the best piece of research that I've read in my career. So if we were to give the model a thinking scratchpad, just give it a scratchpad, hey, jot down your thoughts before starting something, and after you run a tool call, like think about what happened in that tool call. What happens is this thinking step really helps the model when performing long chains of tool calls or like a multi-step conversation. I'll show you a demo of this as well in this video, and this is just fantastic. What we at Agno, what we've done is, along with the thinking step, we've also added an analyze step, a search step. So we've extended the thinking tools to knowledge tools to search tools, which we in general call reasoning tools. And these tools turn non-reasoning models like GPT-4o, Llama 4 into exceptional reasoning agents. This is the approach I'm the most excited about because this is the most complete approach out there. And then finally, we are also experimenting with a separate agent that uses a custom chain of thought and tool use approach for building reasoning agents. I'll demo these as well. These take a lot of time to run. So what happens is you give the agent a task and it works with the problem repeatedly. And we call these reasoning agents. And this is another approach we're taking to reasoning. So I'll walk through each of these three approaches. Spoiler alert, the reasoning tools approach is my favorite out of the three. So let's get into it. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be using Agno for these three approaches. Agno is completely open source. Scan this QR code to go to the repo, give it a star. The docs are here. And what you'll find in the docs, if you want more information about this, is that in these docs, you have this section on reasoning. Under user guide, the docs are very, very well organized. And under the reasoning guide, we talk through each of these approaches in detail. We'll have all of the examples out there. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Along with these approaches, if you just want to dive into the code, you want to run some examples, which is what we're going to be doing today, you can go to the Agno repo, go to the cookbook, and under cookbook, we have a set of reasoning examples, Agno cookbook reasoning. And it's got a lot of examples in there, and which we're going to be running today to test out reasoning. All right, so let's get started with some code. So this is the Agno repo, and I have my terminal open on the right-hand side. And under Agno Cookbook reasoning. So first, let's start with the most obvious approach, which is a reasoning model. I'm going to test out O3 Mini. I think everyone's tested O3 Mini out like this, which is fine and fair, so I'm not going to run this in the interest of time. But I will show you how O3 Mini is used with tool calls. The task which we're going to be working today is write a report comparing NVIDIA to Tesla, and we'll give it the Yahoo Finance tools. It might run into rate limit issues in this video, so just bear with me when that error happens. So I'm going to run this example, and I have debug mode set as true, so I want to see the system prompt, all the things that are happening behind the scenes. So you see, in this one, because it's a reasoning model, right, they're great at coding, they're great at math, but it just didn't make that tool call. That's what Anthropic research was talking about. So, it just doesn't really have that information. So reasoning models, so you can reason through them, but when it comes to like tool calls or sequential tool calls, things get difficult. Now let's talk about my favorite piece. Okay, before we get into like the reasoning tools, let's do another approach, which is also like very, very popular, where we use a reasoning model to generate a response, and then a model like Claude or something to get the final response. This is very useful because what happens is these reasoning models aren't really that great at generating like a nice, natural sounding conversational response. So what a lot of use cases, a lot of what our users do is they use reasoning models like DeepSeek to generate the response. We're using Grok, so it's like pretty fast with thinking as well. And then they'll use something like Claude to generate the final response, which is a lot more like, human-like and natural. So in this one, what happened is we'll see first, we use DeepSeek via Grok, which is generally very fast, to think about the problem, which is which number is bigger, 9.11 or 9.9. This is where most of the regular models fail because of tokenization issues. And what DeepSeek did is DeepSeek reasoned about the problem. It kind of generated that 9.9 is the larger number, and then it sent it off to Claude, where we got the response back that 9.9 is the larger number. If you were to actually like kind of just run this with 3.5, I think it's fixed at 3.7, but if you were to just run this in 3.5, let me just do that while I'm at it and see. Maybe this gets that wrong. So over here you can see, right, the 9.11 is bigger than 9.9, which is wrong, but then something happened and it corrected. 9.9 is bigger. So it did work through the problem. I think it's fixed in the latest version. But this was like a big problem with a lot of the models before this. So you can use a reasoning model to reason about the problem, and then use a conversational model like Claude to generate the response. Okay, now moving on to the fun bit. So this is like, these aren't like really the approaches with reasoning agents that I'm particularly excited about. So I just want to get done with this piece. The approach I'm really excited about is this research from Claude, the Think Tool research. I would encourage everyone to kind of go through this research, and this is just so game changing and so underrated. So what we do is we give Claude a thinking scratchpad, and it'll work through that problem really well. So let me just run this for you, and we'll work through also what we add to the system prompts. So with the instruction is use tables where possible, but with this thinking tools, we can add a set of instructions for using these thinking tools. And what it does is it tells Claude that before you take an action or respond to the user after receiving a tool call, use this to jot down your thought, iterate over tool results. And what we'll see is, and let me just see that tool call here. So the first, what Claude does is it'll generate a thought. Let me plan out this report. Then it'll run the tool calls in it. So all of those tool calls are going to be running. And then after it gets these tool results, it's going to think again whether it got the valid tool results and what happens next. So with Agno, you get this, we're running things in terminal, things are very well highlighted here. So we had this thought which uses the thinking tools. Okay, let's go back up again. So yeah, so this thought kind of outlines the approach it's going to take. Then it runs all of these tools one by one. They run in parallel, so they run pretty fast. Agno is also fully asynchronous, so you can use that approach as well. And then it thinks about, okay, I got this information. This is how I'm going to structure my report, and then generates the answer. Absolutely fantastic. I love that it was just the tool does nothing. It just gives it a scratch pad, and it makes the model perform so much better. Okay, now this isn't just limited to Claude. Like, look at this one. Okay, so Llama 4 came out, I think, yesterday, right? And we'll use the Scout Llama 4, which is the smallest one. And on this one, we need to kind of like tune the instructions to use the thinking tool. So that's what's happening here. But we'll do the exact same thing with Llama 4 as well. And with Grok, it's so fast that look at the speed at which it's operating right now. And it does the exact same thing. So it has the thought. It then runs the tool call. It thinks about each of the tool calls. It runs something again, thinks about it. And it's just exceptional how giving it just this one think tool changes the game. At Agno, we've extended this research and done it to kind of like reason over knowledge bases. So this example, which is reasoning tools, knowledge tools, we give it a knowledge base of the Agno documentation, the LLMs.txt file, and what we'll do is we'll give it the ability to think, search, and analyze, and we'll add some few short examples here as well. So then when we run this, so I'm going to just comment this out because I've already loaded the knowledge base, but I want to search for how do I build multi-agent teams with Agno. And let me run this. And I am absolutely in love with this approach. So again, let's look at the system prompt here. The system prompt is you have access to the think, search, and analyze tools. And then we talk about how do you use these tools. So the think tool, use it as scratch for planning, brainstorming, search, execute a query against knowledge base. You can use this for any type of search tool, internet search, or like, making API calls. This is just exceptional how far this can go. Now let's see what it does, right? So now when we look at this, so it had a think about what it wants to do. Then it did a search, and then it analyzed that request. And it found it in the first search, but we've been using it enough to know that you can actually use multi-step search with this, and this knowledge tool works so much better than traditional RAG or agentic RAG. Reasoning added to knowledge agents. Absolutely fantastic. Now let's go to the next example, and I want to kind of like stop this in a few minutes, is our actual inbuilt Agno's reasoning agents. So this is actually very interesting as well. So with Agno's built-in reasoning agents, let me actually go first run the 911 bigger than 9.9 problem, right? So, and in this one, I'm going to unset Agno debug because I actually want to show you what happens with a regular agent first. It got that wrong. It said 9.11 is bigger than 9.9, which is absolutely wrong. This is GPT-4o. What we did is we added reasoning as true, which behind the scene started a reasoning agent. This reasoning agent is a chain of thought plus tool use approach. It uses a separate agent to kind of work through each. It first analyzes the problem, then it decomposes and strategizes how it's going to approach the problem. Then it kind of like goes through the strategy part. So the analysis and strategize piece, we've kind of instructed it, but the rest of them, it kind of figures out what it needs to do. And then it validates the answer. And then now you see, just with this extra reasoning as true piece, we were able to get to the right answer. And it gave us the step-by-step approach in there as well. These are the 3 approaches to building reasoning agents, reasoning models, reasoning tools, and reasoning agents, which uses a separate chain of thought and tool use. Try out the reasoning tools, the think and the knowledge tools. I love everything about them, and let me know how they go. Let me see if the answer is completed here. All right, thank you everyone. Hope you have a good day. Bye.